Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Saturday, the 27th. Oh my goodness. Houston, we got a problem. I'm going to tell you what. There's a big, enormous ship blocking the Suez Canal completely. You can't get anything through. 30% of global trade goes through the Suez Canal of shipping for the entire world of everything. 30%. That's enormous. Okay? And so they need, now, on the surface, when you just look at this and think about it for a minute, like, you say to yourself, well, they'll get it out of there in a couple days because it's so important. On the surface, that's what you'd say to yourself. Hey, they should get it out of there in a couple days. It's not that simple, guys. I'm going to go into detail why it's not so simple, One of the things, well, let's get the chart started and take a look and we'll understand why it's not so simple. One of the things is you have to consider the ship is enormously heavy. And the ships go down deep underneath the water. There's almost as much underneath the water of a ship that you can't see as above the surface. Especially when a ship's loaded as heavy as this one is. Loaded with these giant cargo containers. Okay? And so we're going to consider some options here. One of the first options I would say is that come to my mind was helicopter. Can we get a helicopter? Let's take a look at some of the pictures of these helicopters, these big lifters. Can we get a big lifter like this? Or perhaps like one of these to lift the containers off of the ship. Because they can lift some pretty heavy loads. Some of these ones, like this type of helicopter right here, they have, look, they can lift the whole house, so quite seriously. But they do have constraints on their lifting capacity. So this morning I looked it up and I wanted to find out what are their constraints on their lifting capacity. Now here's looks like a 20-foot long shipping container that it's lifting. But that container is probably empty. Okay? And that's within the capacity of one of these big helicopters to lift an empty shipping container. Now, shipping containers come in various lengths. And the standard shipping container is not necessarily 20 feet long. The standard's like 40 feet long. Bigger shipping container than that. That's a little short shipping container. A small one, And it's probably not full. Here's a picture of a helicopter lifting a Jeep. So how much can these really big helicopters lift? Well, let's find out. Here's a 40-foot long shipping container right here. And how much does a shipping container weigh and how much can the helicopter lift? Well, I looked it up. Helicopter lifting capacity. Just a second here. And we'll get in here and we'll take a look at this. Just how much weight can a construction helicopter lift? Light utility helicopters frequently lift between 1,200 and 4,000 pounds. On the other end of the spectrum is the M26, the world's largest lifting heavy lift helicopter, which is capable of transporting up to 44,000 pounds. Okay, now remember that number, 44,000 pounds. That's how much the world's biggest helicopter can lift, How much does a shipping container weigh? Well, we got these big shipping containers, 40 feet long shipping containers and stuff. What's the weight of the shipping container? Weight sizes per shipping containers. How much does a standard? Now, okay, it says, how much does a 40-foot standard shipping container weigh? A 40-foot shipping container. Now, you remember the helicopter could lift 44,000. A 40-foot shipping container has a tare weight of approximately 8,159 pounds. Okay? So you say, hey, that's great. It's under the 4,400 pounds. A helicopter should be able to lift a 40-foot long shipping container. It has a tare weight of 8,959 pounds. But it has a maximum payload capacity of approximately 59,039 pounds. And its maximum loaded weight is about 67,199 pounds. Now, these helicopters' maximum lift capacity is 44,000 pounds. They mean what they say on there. That's as fast as its blades can spin and as much as it can lift. 44,000 pounds. And this standard size shipping container here, fully loaded, is 67,199 pounds. Exceeding the maximum weight on the largest helicopter in the world by about, maybe 20,000, about 20,000 pounds more than the maximum the biggest helicopter can lift. So we're going to have to try to put that aside, the idea of, because an awful lot, I think a lot of the shipping containers on that big ship are the standard size of 40 feet. And they're probably, a lot of them are fully loaded. So we're probably going to have to not think about that. Now, there's other options. Another option is dredging. Now, there's different dredging machines that they've made for thousands of years. They've been dredging canals and dredging things, and dredging really does work good. This is a very viable option for moving that ship, is to dredge down the side of the ship, maybe even dredge on both sides of the ship with dredging machines, and dredge deep enough where the silt that's underneath the ship would tend to kind of flow into the trench that they create on both other sides of the ship. This would be a very difficult operation. The ship is as long as the Empire State Building. Thousands of feet long. And they'd have to get in there tightly on both sides of the ship and try to dredge. This would be a big dredging operation. Do they even have the dredging equipment in there yet to do this kind of work? They'd have to bring the equipment in. Where is the equipment, the dredging equipment? And how long would it take the dredging equipment to get there? How long would it take to assemble the crews for a dredging operation of this size? Because, you know, they can do dredging. Dredging is a very viable option for moving this ship. But you have to think of the logistics involved in a situation like this. You'd probably need multiple dredging machines. You'd need multiple dredging operators. You'd need to move those dredging machines to where the job needs to be done. And then you'd have to start doing the job. And dredging is slow work. It's the sort of thing where even once you got the equipment, you got to move tons and tons and tons and tons of material. That ship, the bottom of that ship, is stuck in the mud and in the sand and in the silt, many meters deep. I think I heard an estimate of like 12 meters. Now, meters over 3 feet. So 12 meters would be like 40 feet stuck down into that silt underneath the bank there, 40 feet. Now, I heard other options. They're talking about trying to pull the ship away. I heard a scientist, and he was talking about this. Because that bow is, and the underside of the ship is like 40 feet deep into the mud, what kind of sideways pressure would you need to actually pull that ship free? And he estimated it would probably take many, many, many large pulling ships that can pull more than a tugboat can. It would take, quite literally, it would probably take hundreds of tugboats to actually pull that ship sideways in that sand, because there's a lateral force being pushed against it. It's like wedged. Basically, the ship is like stuck in the mud, and tremendous weight on top of it, holding it down into that position, so it makes it very hard to pull it sideways. Pulling it forwards or backwards would be much easier, but the back is up against the bank on one side, and the bow, the stern, I should say, is up against the bank on one bank. So if they try to pull it backwards, they'd be pulling it up on shore. And forwards, the bow is up against the other bank. So they can't pull it forwards because they'd have to pull it up on shore. They can only pull it sideways. And that's the hardest way to pull, sideways, because it's mired down in the mud and in the sand and in the silt, many meters deep. Oh my goodness, what a situation this is. I have never seen anything like this before. But we're discussing what they really need to do to get this thing free, because they need to get it free because every single day, every single hour that goes by, $400 million is being lost. Every hour. $400 million an hour. I've heard talk of $10 billion a day. And, I mean, these are only estimates. Yes, but the clock is ticking on 30% of the world's trade here being blocked. The whole Suez Canal being blocked by this ship. And so we got to talk seriously. What is it actually going to take to get this thing free? Well, I see two options that could work here in this particular situation. One option is to try to set up a crane on shore, a big boom crane of some sort that could actually lift the containers off. A giant derrick of some sort or another on shore. But to do that, they'd have to put in a foundation. Well, they could do that. They could bring in concrete and put in a foundation and build some sort of a big derrick, a big giant crane on the shore that could extend out over the ship and start lifting the containers and lifting them onto the shore to take weight off of the ship. That is one option, I see, that they could do it. And dredging is the second option. But both of these options, the clock is ticking, and it's going to take days and days to get things set up to the where they can actually do something with this ship. So this ship is embedded right now. This is the situation that we're in right now. The ship is embedded, and I don't see it moving anytime soon. Quite seriously, guys. So what does that mean? That means 30% of global trade has just basically been snipped off. For gosh knows how long it's going to take. And it's going to take some, the way I see it, this is not a simple problem to fix. It's going to be nothing easy about it. And it could take a very long time. And we're going to have to start thinking in those terms, because to set up a derrick on the shore, now there is another option, is derrick from another ship. Maybe they could bring in some sort of a ship in close and that has a derrick on it and a crane on it to try to move the containers off. Even the logistics of that are going to take time, And so we're going to watch as this situation progresses. But this is a catastrophe. This is a global catastrophe. This is a catastrophe. And when this situation first happened, I thought to myself, hey, I didn't think too much of it. But now that I'm analyzing it, I can see this is big. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.